Hello, property nomads. Hope you're well. So, planning approvals have apparently fallen to a record low as, and I quote, NIMBYs block builders. That's an interesting article coming out of the Telegraph, and it just goes to highlight the issues that we have in UK when it comes down to planning and trying to get things through the planning system. Now, I'm sure, unless you've been living under the rock or a rock, you're probably aware that there are always issues with housing in the UK. And as we said time and time before, not just on our YouTube channel, but the podcasts that we produce as well, in the long run, that the supply of housing is a lot less than the demand for housing. And as long as the demand for housing is much higher than the supply, we're always going to have a challenge basically when it comes to building homes or building enough homes in order to meet that demand. Now, anyone that's gone through planning before, and I'm sure there are planning horror stories out there, sometimes it can be quite easy. Sometimes if you're looking to do something through permit development, then 9 times out of 10, it's quite straightforward. Unless there are some serious objections, you should be absolutely fine. But when you have to go through the rigmaroles of going through the local council, applying for this, applying for that, having 28,000 meetings, and then, stuff may or may not happen after that, you can start to see why sometimes, no matter whatever government's in charge, whatever they come up with regards to housing, if they keep leaving things in the hands of the local council, then chances are they're just going to block stuff if they don't like the idea. And then this helps to exacerbate the situation where we're not building enough homes anyway. There are other external reasons why home building might be slowing up at the moment. We'll do that in a different video. Apparently, according to this article, the number of planning permissions granted for new build homes, in Britain has fallen 20% in the past year and is at its lowest level since records began in 2006. Again, this makes me laugh when we're dealing with records that we're only dealing with 17 years worth of records. So, it makes it sound more dramatic than it really is, because no one's got any figures from before 2006. So who knows what was going on before then. The number of homes approved has nearly halved from a peak of 110,000 in the first quarter of 2021 to just 62,700 in the second quarter of 2023. That's according to the Home Builders Federation, which is a trade body. And a lot of builders are saying that councils and others have basically been allowed to block more planning applications after the government scrapped mandatory house building targets for local areas at the end of last year. So I'm trying not to get into the politics of this too much. Basically, government had home targets, then they got rid of them. And because they've got rid of the mandatory house building targets, it means that councils have had more leeway to reject applications. Now, I'm not saying that every single application that goes in needs to be approved. In an ideal world, yes. Sometimes there will be the odd one or two where it either just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, or the application might be daft, or there's something that's seriously wrong that means actually, hang on a minute, this should be rejected. I don't know, let's just say someone wants to knock down an old windmill that hasn't got an issue and put 100 homes on the site. If that gets rejected for that reason, because they don't want the windmill to be knocked down, for someone that quite likes historical buildings and whatnot, I kind of get that. But if it's rejected for any other daft reason, then this is where there are a lot of issues. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. Good bit here. So it comes after Michael Gove, the Lebanon Up Secretary, has vowed to block ugly homes and give communities more powers to shape the appearance of new builds in their neighbourhoods. In April of this year, he overruled planning inspectors to refuse permission for a 165 home development in Kent because the homes were of a, and I quote, generic suburban nature and did not reflect the expectations end quote, of the local design code. This is just one of the, welcome, by the way, welcome to England, welcome to the UK. This is a sort of crazy crap we've got to deal with. So planning given and then planning taken away because the homes are of a generic suburban nature and did not reflect the expectations of the local design code. I mean, that's nonsense. Anyone that's been and seen a council estate that was built between 1949 or the end of the Second World War and say, I don't know, 1975, it is as generic as you're going to get. They're all complete rat runs at the end of the day. But yeah, of course, there were no issues then. Of course, we need to make things aesthetically more pleasing. Now, the issue for this, I don't know who this developer is or anything like that, so I've got no idea of the rest of the site, but I could probably guarantee to you right now, the fact that they've got to go back to the drawing board is going to cost them more in planning fees, is going to cost them more in architect fees, it's going to cost them more in actual build fees if they've got to make things look aesthetically more appealing. And as a result of that, again, I don't know who this house builder is, but when you're building homes, as with any good thing, you want to be able to make a profit from that. And adding all of these extra costs on aren't going to help house builders. And if you are a slightly smaller house builder and you've got to go through hoops and through hoops and through hoops, and then when you think you're done, you've got to go through more hoops, you're either going to give up or it's going to get to the point where all the increased costs of the project mean that the project is no longer viable. And then if the project's no longer viable, what happens then? Exactly, you're probably a step ahead of me. It means the homes don't get built, and then that just adds to the situation where we are getting told, oh, we need to build more homes. We need to build more homes. Why aren't more homes getting built? Voila. Here is a perfect example, and this is just one example in one place in England. This is why homes aren't getting built. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The planning permissions down by 20%. House building is slowing as a result. Britain's biggest house builder, David Thomas, he's chief executive of Barratt Developments, along with other big developers as well, Taylor Wimpey, etc., have said that they are slowing up with regards to how many homes they're building this year and how many homes they're looking to build, again, citing generic economic conditions. Now, sometimes with these big house builders, they're just land banking anyway, so I take this with a pinch of salt. But the fact that a lot of the bigger house builders are coming out saying, hang on a minute, we're actually slowing up here. Why? Economic conditions, not as many people buying, increased interest rates, things that we've discussed on the channel before. So the fact that they're saying that isn't going to help, certainly in the next couple of years. But going back to planning permissions, yes, they're down. The reasons they're down is that the government has basically taken away the mandatory requirements. This means that local councils, in their infinite wisdom, have more authority to just block as much stuff as they want. Because if you've ever tried getting stuff through planning, regular planning with your local council, yes, I know sometimes it's all about relationships, but they do come up with a crazy amount of stuff. And again, from a house building developer point of view, most developers want to help. They want to do good for the community. They want to be able to provide housing with, to doing a good deed at the end of the day by doing that. And with any capitalist business or any form of capitalism, you want to be able to make a profit at the end. There is no harm in that. There is no shame in that. But when councils are coming up with crazy mumbo jumbo, that's not going to help. And many people are probably looking at the cost of doing things at the moment and thinking, oh, hang on a minute, don't quite like my local council. I'm not convinced they're going to accept this. And I want to use my cash from my investment. I want to use that into other potential projects rather than this. So I'm not surprised to see that headline. You shouldn't be surprised to hear that headline either. This is something that's probably not going to be fixed for quite a while. You're probably not surprised to hear that either. As usual, thank you for following us on YouTube. If you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, please go and do that using iTunes or Spotify or any other podcast platform. If you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do that. Use that bell notification thingy to inform you when new videos get released, and please share Property Nomads with as many people as possible. Thank you very much. We'll see you in the next video.